So a month goes by, we get, I think, 8 offers back from different houses, which I was just shocked. Oh my gosh. Like I was just happy to have one. And there were a couple that came back with around $35,000 offers, which was awesome. I had one offer for one book for $150,000. And then a couple offers that were 2 book deals for around 160,000. Well, I wanted the one book deal for 150. And I mean, my agent was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like actually really shocked. Like, I can't believe this." And so from there, it was then meeting with the publishers, almost doing this like negotiation dance, asking questions. And essentially at the 11th hour, my biggest bid came back to me and said, "You know what? We really love your book, but we think you have a more conservative audience. And so anything that you share, we need it to be from a place of shame almost. Like I so regret my past and I would never do the things that I did in the past again." And they're like, "Your story's kind of racy." And I was like, at the time, I was like, I'm a 30-something-year-old virgin. Like the idea that you think my story is racy is almost laughable, almost because it's very sexually frustrating. And so I found myself in a fork in the road.
Right.
I sign a $150,000 book deal for a one book, but I compromise my integrity,
Mm.
or I go with this 2 book deal that was $160,000 and I walk away from almost $100,000.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a fork in the road moment for me where I was like, man, you always say like, what would you do? Like, do you choose integrity? And I'll say it was kind of a hard decision to make. I was like, can I write the book and stay in integrity and like play the game that this one publisher wants me to play? And ultimately I decided, no, I do not want to compromise my integrity. So I ended up signing a 2 book deal at 160K. And I am so glad that, so I ended up with an imprint of HarperCollins.
I love HarperCollins. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am so grateful that I went with them. They've let me say really, really, really difficult things.
Mhm.
They've really allowed me to challenge a lot of the church and share my experience shame-free. Because ultimately, why a huge reason why I wanted to share my story was because there's so much shame. There's so much sexual shame for those who have grown up in religious institutions or the church or as a Christian. And I just thought I do not want to be a part of casting more shame in this conversation. So I know that's a really long response. But
I
that's been a little bit of my process.
I cannot tell you, Kat, just how refreshing it is to have someone come on our show and transparently share to the level of what you just did. I think that we crave that. Like I crave it. I know our listeners do. And I think it's so powerful how you really took us through that whole journey of showing that this wasn't just, an overnight thing where you were like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And then boom, all these book deals landed in your lap. I love how you took us back to the beginning where you were rejected multiple times. You had even closed the door, like you said, on that chapter, and then it came back to you. And I think it's so inspiring how those first book deals that came to you when they offered you the 10K and you're like, no, I'm going to hold out. Like that's not what I want. And they're like, you're out of your mind. Like you're a first time author. You're never going to get more than this. And then lo and behold, like your second round, like how staggering of a difference. And even your agent, being shocked of receiving something of that caliber for a first time author. I just think it really proves that like if you are steadfast and assured in what you do and do not want, there's a funny way of life working out where maybe what you want doesn't come to you at the time that you want, right? Like it doesn't always go on your timeline, but if you continue in that path, like it'll come to you like eventually, maybe not when you thought, but it happens. And